It's in different parts of the building as the day starts, so that they're not all congregated together, and we can have some spacing there. Clinics will be typically, we've got the clinics, we've got a nurse everywhere. Campus visitors, we're going to ask that we don't have any visitors other than visitors that make an appointment. If they need to talk to a teacher, then we'll ask them to make an appointment. We don't want any visitors past the health and temperature screening area. And this is typical of all the systems that I've talked to other directors. It's also part of the Department of Health recommendations, and it was number 5 on the survey. So parent breakfast and parent lunch, parents won't be eating breakfast or lunch with their kids for a little while. And then use of school facilities is going to be limited. Volunteers are going to be limited for a while. We won't have those. I'm suspending all perfect attendance incentives because we want kids to stay at home if they're sick. Going back to what you were saying, Kim, if I've got a sick child, then just call they're running temperature, call the nurse and say, hey, sick today, I'm not sending him in. We'll administratively excuse that. I don't want kids coming to school sick. So, we'll deal with those on case-by-case basis. I've told the principals, you have the authority to administratively excuse those absences to keep sick kids from coming to school. Athletics, we're going to follow whatever the state and TSSAA puts out. We'll still have lunch before and after school, following the safety guidelines. And then the COVID, if we do have a positive test in a school, then we'll notify people that say we've got a positive test, we've got a positive case, say at each elementary. We can't say who, obviously, for HIPAA reasons, but we'll say we've got one. We're working with the health department. The health department will do the contact tracing. I'm not going to close. The state has urged us not to just close down for this. So, for instance, we may close a classroom if we've got a couple of cases in a classroom. But if we've got one student at a school that has it, then the health department will contact trace, and then the kids that need to be quarantined for 2 weeks, we'll start that remote learning so that they're still learning and not getting behind through the virtual, through the Zoom and the Teams while they're out. And then when they come back, hopefully they won't be behind, and we'll keep moving on, and we don't have to shut down the whole system or shut down the whole school. That's the goal, is not to shut down, to keep moving, and that's what we've been.
Mike, is there a policy in here on face masks?
It was in here. It's encouraged but not required. And the board can change that if they want to. This is the draft policy we're giving to you. You can make any changes you want to it. This is based, like I said, on all of the information that I gave you as we sifted through it, and there's no perfect plan. But this is the best that we felt like was going to keep our kids the safest, be able to get them back in school, and us feel good about them being safe and as healthy as possible with what we've got. So, any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, maybe just a suggestion that I know we're out of our workshop and we're supposed to be starting our regular board meeting. If maybe we, because I'm sure people want to make comments before we vote on this.
Mm-hmm.
If maybe we go on into our regular meeting and then we just vote to amend the agenda, put the resignation of visitors up top.
Okay, we can do the vote very first thing right after French, right? To amend the agenda.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that's what he's saying, I think. Yeah.
What everybody likes. Okay.
That way it gives them the opportunity to talk.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Okay. Let's take 5 minutes then before we start our regular meeting.
Yeah, just wait. You've been here.
All time.
All 6 foot. Oh, yeah.
All time to read all tomorrow.
Watch. Yes.
This text. Let me see what the board really wants.
Howdy,
How
howdy.
you doing, brother?
Wonder if I might get 4 minutes of your time. You guys make. I don't know.
And if we try and follow
Talk to you a little bit on camera about what your plans are.
I hate to do what they want, that board's not approved, but it's not hesitant. You know what I'm saying?
He's gonna go home.
Well, I'm the only photographer on staff tonight. So, I mean, it's 10 minutes and we're into the next
I'm
meeting.
glad you did. I'm making all you.
Just trying to cover as many bases.
I'm pretty, to me, I'm more of if you get over 50 people in here, it's fun.
What is going on?
We don't know. It doesn't. Now there's.
So, it's just,
One of us have a mask on.
when you get started.
Which I can't believe. That's
That's
something I'm trying to do. Right. You can't be. They're trying to.
how good it was. I don't know what the expenses are. You know,
But I was glad to hear.
So you say,
Glad I can share it a little bit.
Well, we.
You're gonna do the lesson.
Listen, seventh grade boys are going. Really? It is. And that's what teachers are wearing. Well, what do you, let me ask you this, I don't get this, if I'm teaching.
It should so
So 6 day fires could take heat.
So it could be.
Whatever reason, they need dogs, they gotta go.
And this is all we got.
Or you were in the line.
No, it's not.
What is it, Mark?
Oh, no, yeah, but what I'm saying is, I don't know that there's, I mean, maybe at the end of the semester, they do the whole thing,
But
it should be all the same.
but hopefully
That's what I'm getting at.
right now.
Then we need to ask that question, because that's not how I get it. They could.
I don't have, no, I mean, ever since I had the dog, let's get over it.
Michael. Can they jump between Florida and National?
All right,
They're not gonna flip back.
July 9th, 2020, board meeting. Since we've already had the pledge and the prayer, we're gonna go straight into the meeting called time. At this time, I would entertain a motion to put something on this.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move the recognition of visitors to the very top, past our, well, we're not doing, just make it to the very top. And then go from there.
I'll second.
Is there anything on or not on the agenda?
Yes, anything is.
Kayla, would you roll call that, please?
Mr. Newman?
No.
Mr.
I mean, yes.
Mr.
I'm kidding.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Rotting?
Yes.
Mr. Evan?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Okay, recognition of the visitors. At this time, anybody that wants to speak about anything that is on or not on the agenda, and we'll work left to right. All right? Ma'am. Podium, state your name, please.
You want me to slide that away from you, not to be so close?
My name is Amy Wilder, and I just had a question for the students that were immune compromised and their family members, like what would be their educational options?
Can't hear good.
Can't understand.
Sorry.
Too far from the mic. Yeah.
I'll scoot this out a little bit. Social distance.
You know, I'm so close to Scotty.
Yeah, I made
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yes, my question was educational options for children with immune issues and their family members.
That would be the virtual school option. And, you know, we'd ask that you talk with the principal too, to make sure that they have all the information, to make sure they can give you the best course of action. But my initial answer would be the virtual school option if they didn't feel comfortable in the building.
Okay, thank you.
Who else was on the left side? Cindy?
We got anything there?
My name's Cindy Crawford. I've got just a quick question. On the virtual school, children that have already tried out for athletic teams that have been accepted to those teams, how does that play into that factor? Because I did read over that. So if they start the school, they still have the option to go back into the public school setting from the virtual academies. How does that affect the athletics?
And let me say too, we don't recommend that because the curriculum's gonna be a little bit different and that's gonna be tougher on the child. And we don't have all the specifics on the virtual piece yet, other than what I was saying, what the state guidelines are, you know, the 6.5 hours and all that. But as far as that's concerned, the virtual students still are students, so they can still play athletics, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Tammy Bright.
Next.
My concern is, you know, and I'm all for what you said on the sanitizers, the sprays, everything like that. But who's gonna be responsible for filling the sanitizer stands?
We've asked the principal to designate a person at each school, that way we can monitor our volume too, because when we start running low, we need to know so we can get some more. So we've asked them to make sure that there's one person designated in their building. So like if a teacher started running low, they would bring theirs to whoever's been designated to refill that.
Okay, and I brought it to Mr. Tinker's attention several times about the cleanliness of the bathrooms at the schools. Eaton's is horrible, even after the talk he had with them.
And that company was bought out by another company since that was right about the same time we went into the closure. So we're actually dealing with a new company now. So they seem to be very proactive and they were very supportive about trying to move some night shift folks to the day shift to get what we were asking them to do without that additional expense, other than just saying, no, it's gonna cost you more money. So
Okay.
I'm hoping, but that's another reason, because that perception that you're saying is out there as well, and that's another reason I wanted to lay another layer on top of it with what we're doing on top of what they're doing.
Okay, but keeping parents and everybody out away from it, how do we know it's being done?
Our recommendation's not to let anybody in because we feel like that
That's what I'm
exposes the kid.
saying, how do we know it's gonna be done?
You'll have to trust your teachers and your administrator and your staff.
We've trusted them for years and it's not been done.
All I can say is you'll have to trust them. I mean, you can make an appointment and come in, it's just we can't have 250 people in the cafeteria every morning eating, exposing all the kids to whatever they bring.
So-
When we're taking all these measures to keep kids separated throughout the day, all of that is wasted if we let everybody come in and do that.
And I agree to a point, but, okay, so you're saying as a
And
parent,
this is as of now. I'm saying as a parent,
you can make an appointment.
and we're gonna make sure that at the beginning of school, we want every parent to be able to go in and see how the classroom's set up, see how everything's set up in the school and talk to the principal and the staff. And we'll do that before school starts so they can see where they're sending their child to and what they're doing. We want them to feel comfortable with that. But once school gets rolling, then we'll ask them to make an appointment to come in and go past the office
But, I
and
mean,
talk to the teacher.
that'll be approved if I say, you know, I'd like to check the restrooms. They're gonna let me go look, you know, check the restrooms?
If you wanna talk to the teacher about you just won't have to trust us on the cleaning piece. I mean, we're not gonna let everybody come in to check the bathrooms when they want to.
Our bathrooms are so pathetic that the kids won't even use them. It's, how bad is it?
It is bad.
I've got Denise Littleton right here, she had children out there. I mean, we have complained and complained, and it's not done no good. You know, we have got an issue at Eaton's and North Middle. North Middle's better than Eaton's, but they still have an issue. You know, when a kid will come home and you get them in the car and hurry up, we gotta get home to, you know, use the bathroom. That's a problem. You know, 'cause that child's sitting there all day holding, you know.
Mr. Gary, can you look into that, please?
I just said we've got school's not been in operation since March, so, I mean, we've got a new company and we'll keep.
Can we monitor it very,
Yes, sir.
very close?
Yes, sir.
Okay, another thing, pre-K kids. You have to walk the pre-K kid into the school, sign them in, and wait till the teacher comes to get them. Are they still gonna do that?
We'll have protocols on pre-K. Do you wanna address that, Ms. Warren?
With pre-K, what we're gonna do at the beginning, we'll go ahead and they have to sign in just like they do, but we're gonna offer some time that you guys can come and see what the classroom's like, you know, we're going to offer that time.
Same thing for kindergarten. If we've got a
Yes.
kindergarten parent bringing a new kindergartner in during those staggered days, they're not gonna come when everybody else starts school at 8 o'clock
Right.
in the madness. They'll come at like 8:30, they'll be able to walk the kid back to the kindergarten room, check it out, do what they would normally, we understand kindergartners and pre-Kers, but they're not gonna do that all year. They'll do
Right.
that for a couple of weeks to
2
make sure
weeks
that
usually is what they do.
everybody's
We're gonna
comfortable.
monitor it, we're gonna
Yes.
monitor it with the amount
But the
of
parent will have their
kindergartners that we
temperature taken and all that before they go
Right.
back, but it'll be after the influx of kids comes in that morning. But we're very conscious of needs of kindergarten and pre-K
Okay.
parents.
All right, thank you.
Got everybody on the left side?
Nope.
Come on, man.
Good try, Jenny.
Good.
Okay, first off, I'd like to say, there's no amount of money you can pay me to do your job right now, Mr. Guerin. You can't,
I'm about ready to get back.
you can't, I don't blame you. There we go.
State your name, please.
Lynn Greer, hi. I've been doing this forever. If you don't know me, you've been missing out. I would like to ask a couple points in clarification. I'm not complaining about anything that you're doing at this point. I feel you all have done your best in a nasty situation, and I'm aware that day after tomorrow, it could all change, and this could be paper airplanes for all it's worth. Florida virtual. Is that a requirement by the state?
No, ma'am, that's one of the programs that we, and Jennifer, would you care to teach to that? The 6.5 hours is a requirement of the state. That's one of the programs that came most highly recommended. Like I said, that's what Lenore City's been using. It would meet all the qualifications, and we feel like we could get that approved. And it would be, would be able to train our teachers on that as well.
That's
So
what
that's-
Metro National's using as well, several systems are.
Okay,
So,
don't,
Yeah.
don't tell me we're doing it because Metro
No.
National.
No, we're doing it because it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question I guess I need to clarify even more is, they can do Zoom if we get the school shut down again, but you can't do Zoom for virtual learning because you can't track that 6.5 hours, is that?
No, I can't ask a teacher to teach the kids that they've got in their classroom and teach Zoom kids all year long. If we were doing just the Zoom where they're doing all that, then that would be easier to manage.
See, my thought process, and this is just my thought process, is it's the same amount of kids. And she's got them right there on her computer, sitting on her desk. She's got the rest of them sitting in her class. And that would make virtual learning a whole lot more happier for me than having some teacher that I don't know their qualifications. I don't know if they're a kindergarten teacher teaching 7th grade algebra, which still better than me teaching 7th grade algebra. what about the students that have a legitimate reason to virtual school but do not have access to the internet?
And those are cases that we're gonna have to look at case by case, because right now, like I said, we hit that snag today, so I don't have an answer for you.
You don't have an answer yet?
No, I mean, I'm just being honest.
But you will in 2 weeks when we come back, you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, they're right, you'll have an answer in 13 days, and on the 14th, they'll change it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute, I know there was something else. Okay, the 6.5 hour learning
And
day.
another reason I don't have an answer to that is I don't know volume. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm talking about 10 kids that don't have internet access, or if I'm talking about 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Till I have an idea of what we're dealing with.
Well, then you've got people like me, I can get internet if I wanna pay $70 a month. I don't wanna pay $70 a month. And you can't make me because you're a public school, you know, so, you
I'm
know.
not asking, I'm not.
Right, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm really,
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm not downing you in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
So that when the 1,000 people that have been calling me today call me tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'll be able to give them
And that's why I made
answer.
that statement earlier. I don't want to lose any kids, but
Right.
if we've got parents that don't want to bring their kids back to the traditional building and
Right.
the virtual piece doesn't work out, then, you know, they've had the third option of the homeschool, which I hope they don't do, but those are multiple options that are out there and available.
This 6.5 hour learning day,
Yes, ma'am.
does it have to be 6.5 continual hours, or can it be broken up as long as it's 6.5 hours
I have
within?
to defer to my team, I'm not sure.
You can,
I think just as long as it's,
6.5 hours.
yeah, we've
In a day?
got to show.
It can be broken up,
Yeah, there'll be times when they're eating or studying on other things.
or their mom's not gonna sit there for 6.5 hours a day, I mean, you know, mom, dad's not.
And the 6.5 hours is not continuous time on the computer.
Right.
Part of that's independent practice. Not all of that 6.5 can be monitored on the computer. The computer piece would be the time showing that they spent on the module learning what they were supposed to be learning, then they do the independent practice.
Okay.
Turning in the work takes care of the independent practice piece, so we know they've done that. And then the check-in would know, you know, the teacher when they check in would know too. So it's a combination of the three things to be able to know that they're, what we don't want happening is kids not making academic progress because they've chosen an option that's not, you know, and that's what we've got to keep from happening, is make sure we want everybody to learn, whether they're virtually or in the school, and we got to make sure that we're helping people set up for success in that area.
All right, pretty sure that covered it. One more time, thank you. You want me to come up with something else, Mr.?
Oh, no, did I say it out loud?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for all the work that you all are doing for all the kids. Can't make everybody happy. I support you. I support you.
Thank you, Lee.
Y'all have a good one.
Anybody else on the left-hand side?
The left.
You seemed anxious.
I was, but now I'm getting nervous.
They don't bite much.
My name's Kevin Crowley, and I guess I maybe not need the mic. I just wanted to point out a few things before you guys vote on masks. I like what you have about the air scrubbers. I mean, if you guys buy a decent air scrubber and your classroom's 18 feet by 26 feet and you're moving 500 cubic feet per minute, you'll clean every bit of that air, 4.5 times every hour. And I like to see that almost the extent of what we do. I'm not fond of the masks. I think they provide a false sense of security. The virus is 0.125 microns in size, and your best filter, an N100, is only effective to 0.3 microns and larger. So if the virus was airborne, your mask would be 100% useless, but they're not. It's carried on water vapor that is 10 microns in size, and as that water vapor gets on your mask, only your surgical masks have any kind of rating of resistance against getting moist. And they are only designed to be used for one surgery and thrown away. And even with that one surgery and thrown away, they're only 66% effective. So the longer you wear a mask, the more face touching you're doing, the more you're putting yourself at risk. And also that anytime you talk, any chance that that particle had to get caught in a dust cake, Because I work with filtration for a living, and I work at a plant that makes us wear masks, and I go through OSHA training once a year. So even if that particle were to get caught on a dust cake, when you talk, when you move, when you bend your mask, you break that dust cake up and you move the smallest particles in to be sucked in. You know, if you feel safe with the mask and if they are used properly, yes, they do provide a little bit of a buffer, but I don't want that little bit of a buffer that they could provide to be overruled by a false sense of security and provide room for kids to tease other kids for being required to wear masks and all that other stuff that can go with it. I mean, I like the idea of having them just completely voluntary and no more than that. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Ron.
Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Katie Belnier Thomas. I really wish that I were introducing myself to you by shaking your hand. Not today, but that's my style, and I'd like you to know that that's my sentiment. I'm very proud to be an 8th grade teacher at North Middle School and lifelong Loudon County resident. I would like to first thank the board members for their service to the community and to say that it's an honor to meet with and speak to so many public servants, from police officers to teachers to park and rec to facilities management, team coaches, and more. I'm honored to be among so many people who dedicate their lives to Loudon County. I'd also like to thank and commend my superiors for their work on sanitation, feeding the children of this county, and technology, their tireless work. I'm here to raise a matter that I view of the utmost importance to the plan for reopening schools. I'm here to beg the lady and gentlemen of the board to use their authority I don't have as a teacher, to include mandatory masks as a cornerstone of our reopening plan. Maybe not all ages, maybe not all environments, but I believe it should be the norm, and as the norm it would decrease teasing. I'm fully aware that this is not popular, but what is popular very infrequently is what is right. Please allow me to try to persuade you as a teacher, a mother, and a member of this community. I should also begin on the premise that I'm very much in support of reopening schools. I've wanted nothing more than to be back in my classroom with my students and to send my own son off to preschool since March. I've cried for the loss of time with my students, the knowledge that so many of them would be at home hungry, without guidance, without the means to complete any online work, because they were too busy taking care of younger children for their essential worker parents and grandparents. I am aware of the incredible social and economic service that schools provide by taking care of our community's children day in and day out, and how necessary it is. I do that work. Indeed, my request is the only chance we have for schools opening safely and remaining open for more than a few weeks. That's what I want, to remain open. Earlier this week, I was made aware of the many thoughtful logistics that my school plans to implement in order to control the increasingly rapid spread of COVID-19. We will do so many new things, like walk students to their class, keep class groups the same throughout the day, keep strict seating charts, check temperatures at the door, be prepared to teach online at the drop of a hat. All of which I am perfectly willing to do. However, when we got down to discussing the details of this new kind of school day, it became clear that I would still be teaching around 90 different students a day. My class sizes would still be 30 to 35 students at a time. There have been no upgrades as of yet, very excited, to the building's very poor ventilation system, and several classrooms, including mine, still have no windows to open. One change is that the substitute list of noble men and women ready to take my place in the event that I get sick has dwindled into non-existence. Given those realities of my day, I was shocked to hear that masks would not be required in the building. Indeed, the CDC, our highest federal level health agency, advises this. People wear cloth face coverings in public settings and when around people who don't live in our household, especially when other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. I've just described my classroom. Imagine the impossibility of social distancing in my classroom that has gotten no bigger, teaching 90 students a day because the teaching staff hasn't grown either. I can understand and accept the limit to our resources. As a teacher, I'm used to that. All I ask is that given the fact that we cannot properly social distance, we follow government guidelines for mask wearing. It is not too late to change this. In fact, yesterday our Republican governor, Bill Lee, said this in his daily briefing. We need you to embrace another habit, and that is wearing a mask. A mask isn't just a way to protect you and your family, it's a way to protect Tennessee economy, and we need buy-in. We need you to embrace the simple habit of mask wearing. If this is what our governor implores, then it would be totally justified for this governing body to heed his word in leadership. Education Commissioner Schwinn later said that in reopening, Tennessee schools will put safety and high-quality education as a priority. I ask you, how is safety a priority when I'm asked to work in conditions where socially distancing is impossible but masks are not required? How is high-quality education a priority when the professional teacher necessary to provide that education will be out sick or worse, and there's no one standing to replace me? More good news is that this is not at all unprecedented. Yesterday, Maryville unveiled its plan that expects 8th through 12th graders to wear masks, and masks will be given to all of these students, Maryville City Schools. Also, Texas released its state education plan for reopening schools, and they will require students over 10 years old who have no adverse medical conditions to wear masks. Many European countries have reopened schools with few problems, as our president alluded to as success stories just yesterday on Twitter. The vast majority of them require masks. In fact, Sweden schools can be looked at as a cautionary tale. They have had no mask requirements and have mourned the death of 2 teachers. I know this board will not stand for that. I know schools must open for the students. I am asking you all to think and vote in the interest of them, because protecting their teachers and parents and grandparents is in their best interest. The arguments for reopening are quick to cite that children are less impacted by this deadly disease and are frequently asymptomatic when infected, meaning they do not suffer symptoms, and for this I say thank God. But therein lies the argument for masks, since temp checks will not catch the 35% of cases of children who walk through our doors that are asymptomatic. We won't know who's sick in the building until it's too late. Too late for my aging coworkers, my pregnant coworkers, my diabetic coworkers, my coworkers who are parents to newborns, my coworkers who take care of elderly parents, and too late for the grandparents who parent almost 40% of our student population. 40% mammals and papaws. Without masks, the very real people I just mentioned will be exposed to this virus before we ever know there's a problem, because that's how the vicious airborne nature works. We are reopening without mass testing. I have just proved the problematic nature of temp checks and screenings, as did Mr. Jenkins earlier. It is widely known that for masks to be effective, both parties have to wear one, meaning that if I am to be safe from germs of 90 kids, they must wear a mask, because only wearing a mask myself protects me from them about 1/3 of the time. Are you comfortable risking my life 66% of the time? I have also considered the point that children wearing masks will be flawed. To this, I would like to cite a recent analysis of coronavirus outbreaks in 42 countries, which posited, is it not better to adopt a possibly imperfect protective measure rather than waiting for more evidence at the expense of human lives? Findings from Arizona State University further support this by stating, broad adoption of even relatively ineffective face masks may meaningfully reduce community transmission of COVID-19, potentially reducing mortality rate by 65%. I want to be in that 65%. Masks are the only simple solution, however unpleasant or imperfect, that can potentially keep our schools open and save lives. Isn't that potential worth any discomfort or disapproval? To prove that it is indeed, I draw from this sacred text. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4 says, let each of you look not to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. I'll leave you with a question of paramount importance that I voice at the request of several teachers, and I beg you to consider. Why are masks not required? If the answer is popular opinion or civil liberties, I say as a teacher, a mother, a daughter, a resident, and a voter, that is not good enough. We live in a society of the rule of law. Some things must be decided by leaders to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Indeed, fire escapes, seatbelts, and legal drinking ages were not always popular, and people would surely break some of these mandates if given the choice. But the public servants who implemented preventative measures to save lives will be remembered as visionaries. We need your strong research-based leadership now. I believe that if you look into your hearts and look at the realities of the environment and requirements for teachers as we reopen in a pandemic, you will see that no change to these policies reflects an egregious lack of value for our health, safety, and well-being. I thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Anybody else? Right.
I'm Brian Kelch. We just heard two very different opinions on masks. One, I would say, sounded like an expert that works with filtration. I liked his opinion, since he seems to have a lot of knowledge about how the filtration works. I don't see any need to require everybody to wear something that is not effective, that is not guaranteed to be effective. We talk about how our country is set up and we have freedom of choice. I should have the freedom of choice if I wear a mask. Teacher should have the freedom of choice if she wants to wear a mask. If she wants to wear it, that's fine with me. But my 12-year-old is back here shaking his head. He doesn't want to wear a mask, and I don't feel that he needs it. That's my choice as his parent to put a mask on him or not. Just like it's everybody's choice whether they do virtual learning or they do it school learning. If we do school learning, there's a chance our kids could get sick. But we're willing to take that chance because we want our kids back in school. My 12-year-old wants to be back in school. I've heard that so many times from him that I've been shocked. But he's ready to go back to school. He doesn't want to wear a mask. He wants to get back to life. And we can get back to life. I know because I run a child care center in Loudon County. I have 2 locations. My biggest location in Lenore City has been having about 65 to 75 kids a day. There's been no coronavirus outbreak in the daycare. Nobody is wearing a mask. We're hand washing, sanitizing, disinfecting, more than we ever did. But we are constantly being vigilant about keeping the daycare clean and just regular sickness. Knock on wood, that's what keeps happening, but we're fighting to keep that going. And so, and we were only closed a month during all of this. So we closed during April when it was at its peak. And if you look at the death rates, those have been dropping and they're plummeting down from where they were, which is great. But we've got to get back out and we've got to build up our immunities to this. And we have to get the herd immunity that you keep hearing about. Because if you hide behind the mask, you're not going to get immune to it. If you stay at home, you're not going to build up the immunities. So we've got to build our bodies up, and we need our leadership to give us choice. Just like Mayor Bradshaw did, he gave us the choice whether we have to wear a mask or not. I had to go to Knoxville today, and I hated it. I didn't want to go, but I had to wear a mask when I was there. I did because it's the law, but it was not something that I want to do all day, and it's not something I want my children to do while they're at school all day. And working in childcare, I can tell you, teaching a group of kids all day, especially young children, wearing a mask is almost impossible. You got pre-K, you got kindergarten, you got K through 3. That's gonna you're gonna have a chore keeping it on them all day. You're gonna be wasting your time trying to keep those masks on them. Once you get in the middle and high school, it'll be a lot easier, but with the younger children, it's a waste of time. Those masks are gonna be on their shoe, they're gonna be on their head, they're gonna be twisting them around, throwing them up in the air. I mean, it's not practical for young children to wear a mask all day. And we need to think about that and give the kids and the parents a choice. So, and that's what your plan says, and I think that's a good plan. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Nicole Staten. I have children in every school. I had a child at Eaton's, North Middle, and at Loudon High School this year.
Hi, Miss BT. And when you got up here and you were talking and stuff, and yeah, you had a lot of great points, but really, could you see Garrett? Look at this, hey Tanner. I mean, that's really, and he's 14 years old. There's no way he's gonna wear a mask all day.
They always follow my rules.
You wanna come home with me? But also, if you have been into North Middle School, they have pod classes. They're not set up to where you have one class and then another class. You have to walk through one class to get to another class. I was telling Carrie, it's like it was at Loudon Elementary when we were students. You have a very thin wall separating, like your science from your math, or your English from your social studies. So yeah, they don't have a lot of room to move their students around and to have the stuff that we are gonna need for all of this that's going on. Do I think our children need to wear masks? No. I've got 5. They ain't ever gonna wear a mask. But I think maybe we should look into somehow reconfiguring their classrooms to make the teachers and stuff feel better about going back to school. Because I've noticed a lot of the teachers are not going back this year. There's been several that have, I'm not going back, it's because they have small children at home and.
Well, they have been, redoing a lot of the rooms, taking non-essential stuff out, where there'll be more room for the kids.
Okay, are they gonna set it up like where, well, I mean like Fort Loudon? If you toured that school and then you go to North Middle and tour that school, it's like totally different worlds.
Yeah, they were
We don't
40
have a
years
building
apart.
program
Yeah.
in place up there.
Yeah, I mean, there is, I mean, it is extremely outdated, and so they don't really have the room to spread out, like, and that's just something to consider. But yeah, I don't believe in wearing masks, but their school size, their classroom sizes are smaller than the normal classroom size.
Anyone else? I see no one. Consent agenda.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second. Ms. Kayla, would you roll call that, please?
Mr. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Moffett,
Yes.
Ms. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Riding,
Yes.
Mr. Evan,
Yes.
Mr. Simon.
Aye.
ENA Voice Services Contract.
Motion.
Motion. Second. Let's roll call that one also.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Moffett,
Yes.
Ms. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Riding,
Yes.
Mr. Evan,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Newman.
Yes.
Pass. Budget amendments. Heard from Mr. Gary in the chat about those. See a motion?
Motion to accept these.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Will you roll call that one, please?
Mr. Moffett,
Yes.
Ms. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Riding,
Yes.
Mr. Evan,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
I forget what Chad called this, but the unpaid bills for North Middle School.
Accounts
Accounts payable. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Riding,
Yes.
Mr. Evan,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
No, Chad should have called it.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Moffett.
Yes.
He called me a bad name, I think.
The request for the overnight field trip, I think we're gonna table that for right now, correct?
Yes.
Do we need to do that by motion? We don't do. No. Okay. ESSER grant. Hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Riding,
Yes.
Mr. Evan,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Moffett,
Yes.
Ms. Bridges.
Yes.
Loudon County Schools reopening plan as It was presented to us tonight, which is subject to change, so.
I make a motion that we accept the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion.
Can I make one, because
Yes,
we didn't get, we got through the reopening plan, but also part of the reopening plan is that critical infrastructure for the staff, and I wanna make sure that if you have any questions on that, I can answer that, and you've seen it, if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just out of curiosity, in the plan, I noticed that it said that, the outside groups that come in will be limited.
Yes.
I know that you're limiting the visitors to coming in, so who's gonna be allowed to come in that's from the outside?
Into the school, practically, no, I mean, right now, the only people, like Loudon City had requested to use our auditorium for a meeting, and then they canceled their meeting, but like government agencies,
But no groups, like there's not gonna be like something happening after school that's gonna be, I don't know, just a different group that has a bunch of kids coming to
don't
use the
want to,
facility.
don't plan to continue, don't want to contaminate the school building since we're taking all these efforts to clean it. Now, like if another government agency needs to use or something, I've typically tried to work with, to be a good neighbor.
Are you referring to, like, say, AAU basketball, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, just where they, because those kids are gonna be, I mean, those could be kids from a different school that comes into that school.
They got canceled already for this year.
So just anything that
But
in relation to,
The board can tell me what they want to do with that. I put it in there to give some flexibility, but I serve at the pleasure of the board. So if you wanna say no groups, you can say no groups until you decide to vote.
I was
think
just
with-
thinking of kids.
Just my opinion, I think with all the effort they put into this, I don't think Mike's gonna hastily let somebody come in that shouldn't come in. So,
Yeah, I agree with
that would be his decision.
And I mean, if someone requests, if, before I make approval for someone to come in, I can also run that by the board chair, so it's an executive committee action, if you prefer that too. If you want another layer beyond me, I mean, I'm fine with that, like I said, I'm easy to get along with, whatever you guys want.
And in your plan, it says that the masks are recommended, but are optional, correct?
Yes, recommended but not
Is that
required.
teachers
One
and
recommended,
students?
one that can be worn appropriately, which is, you know, one of the big concerns without touching and good hygiene, yeah. But yeah, they aren't required, they're recommended in this plan. I don't want you to say my plan, in this plan. There's things in here I don't necessarily agree with either, but it's the best plan for our
It'll
kids.
change.
Cafeteria workers, when they're
They
having to
have to wear
open
masks.
milk and stuff like that for the kids, how's that gonna work?
The cafeteria workers themselves are wearing masks, they're required to do that anyway, correct, Allison, as far as the food preparation and things like that? As far as the people helping, the kids at the tables, if they're within a really close proximity, they need to wear a mask to protect themselves.
Do they have to wear gloves, change them out every time they're opening up a different kid's drink, or how's that work?
I don't see that as, if they want to, they can, but I'm not going to require that. I mean, whatever makes them feel comfortable, we'll have gloves available.
Well, the drink's gonna come from the same location.
That's not the point. If, say the teacher had it or the kids got whatever disease, are they gonna, each child's milk that they're touching?
And we're hoping that the kids that are there are healthy because we've done the free screening. I know that there are asymptomatic.
You're not gonna catch
and that you're not
everybody,
gonna
though.
catch all of them, yeah. But that's, I mean, if they want to wear gloves, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, that goes back to the choice. I mean, if you want me to require them to wear gloves, I can, if that's what the board wants to do.
Yeah, change clothes every time if you want to. I mean, you can just keep opening it up. I mean,
His
there's
plan's
so
about
many-
as reasonable as we can get.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel you, but I mean, we're not gonna be 100% no matter what we do. What Scotty's saying, he's right.
Yeah.
Well, I would
Right,
say
write
that
down. There you go.
I do cafeteria duty just to kind of ease your mind, and the kindergarten kids will say, open my milk, and I always say, do you see the arrow? find it. You know.
That's good.
That's mean.
Well,
I love that.
And that was a kindergartner.
well, I mean, because they have to learn, because if I open
That's
it,
spectacular.
I have to open it every time.
But if they try and they can't get it open, you help them.
It takes a whole lot. If they can't get it open, I'm gonna open it.
We can vote. I can see.
All right, anything else? Any
Motion on the floor.
Dr. Evans?
I'd like to make a couple comments if I can. I'm sure you've all noticed that I've had my mask on until just a moment ago, and I wanted to say something. I figured I'd be awfully muffled with it on, which presents one of the problems right there for wearing masks. We're in the midst of a real dilemma. There's no good answer to what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a situation in schools where we always have had a tremendous amount of contact with each other. That's just the nature of the schools, the way we've designed our buildings, the way we set up classrooms. It's not very convenient for the pandemic that's going on right now. I wish I could agree with what many of you are saying, that let's just make masks optional. But we're dealing with lives. We're not dealing with just the quality of education. We're dealing with lives at this particular point. And the scientific evidence that I'm aware of, that I listen to, says that masks do make a difference. They don't solve the problem completely, but they do make a difference. When masks are used, there's a lower infection rate and a lower death rate. Now we're dealing with lives. We're not just dealing with education. I feel that we should ask teachers to wear masks or shields and teach with those, setting an example that is probably the best way to reduce the infections that are going to take place. Now, talk to Mike about this. He and I have disagreed on it, but I wanted to state my position and what I think would be best. I think no matter what we do, we run a very high chance of not making it through this school year. I would see us having to shut down again during the school year should the infection rate begin to move our direction. If you were in California or Arizona or Texas or Florida right now, you're not going to make it through the school year, I don't believe. And I think we run a high risk if we don't take every precaution we can of having the same thing happen to us. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay, we roll call that.
Mr. Evans?
Yes. No, pardon me. I'm gonna vote no on that.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Riding?
Yes. No. All right, director's report. No, Dr. Evans, your tail end resume.
Take this off again when
You can put it back on.
I probably can't for what I have to say. The legislature was not very active this year to our benefit at all. There was really only one piece of legislation that affected us significantly, and that was taking away the 2% increase for teacher salaries. And that was pulled out of the governor's budget and was passed in the legislature without that piece in there. Chad talked earlier about having to take the $240,000 back out of our budget that had been put in there because that had been in the governor's budget earlier. So that was the basic change and the only thing of real significance that took place, I think, in the legislature this year.
The County Commission didn't vote for our teachers together.
They did not, that's right.
Gary Whitfield did back here, but the other ones didn't. Not that I would call anybody out. Tinker, oh yeah, Tinker. I forget about it, Tinker.
Sorry. It's always nice to be loved.
Is that all, Dr. Evans?
That's all.
Matt?
As I said earlier, there's no perfect plan. There's no solution for this for everyone. I hope that we can start school and I hope we can continue school. It's my desire not to have a district-wide closure, or I will adhere to the authorities above me. If the governor tells me to close, I will close. If the Department of Health tells me to close, I will close. But we will try, we have set up a plan to where if we do end up with some positive cases within the school, like there have been all over the community, then the Department of Health will work with them to contact trace. Those students will be isolated for the 14 for the days. We'll provide them with some remote instruction and we'll keep school open to the best of our ability. But again, those will be communications that we have with the Department of Health. But I want you to know that it is my goal for us to stay open to keep kids in school. I think that's what's best for the community and what's best for our kids at this point. And this has been very challenging. My staff has worked nonstop. My short staff, since remember we're still short one, has been working nonstop, and we will continue to do that on the continuous learning plan. And I will need to, as I said, we'll need to have another board meeting 2 weeks from tonight on July the 23rd to address the continuous learning plan. If anything else comes between now and then relative to school opening, I'll update you to that. I try to keep you updated as along the way anyway, but I'll let you know that. Again, I'm proud of our staff. Like I said, we've hit about 170,000 meals. We will continue to feed. Our last feeding will be July the 22nd, and then we'll take the one week there before school starts to get our kitchens and everything. And I appreciate Miss Allison May. Every day of the week, she's up before the sun gets up, packing food with her cafeteria staff, either at Fort Loudon Middle or Highland Park, and she just went above and beyond, as well as our bus drivers volunteering and things like that. So I appreciate what our staff has done. This is challenging for everyone. It's challenging for parents. It's challenging for teachers. It's challenging for us. It's against my nature to not be able to solve things, and this I cannot solve, and it's driving me crazy not to know that I have the perfect way to fix this. But I feel like we've got the best that we can offer within the constraints we're given. And I want to thank this board because you didn't have to approve $250,000 for me to improve the conditions above what we're already doing. Anybody can write anything in a plan, but and we could just write in there that we'll increase sanitation, and we could say our contractor's going to increase sanitation. But I mean, you put the money behind it to show that we're actually doing that, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate this board for what you do. The last thing I have is I have a new special education director, Mr. Josh Reese. If he'll stand up, I'd like to introduce him to the board. He started with us July the 1st, so I think he's going to be a great asset. I stole him from Anderson County. So
that took some work.
That took some work, but I think he will be a great asset to our team, and I appreciate him joining our team.
Welcome.
Welcome. You know, when Tinker started here, he had flowing lots of hair too. I'm just saying, it's hard on the man. Hey, Kenny.
I just ask everybody to be patient with us. I mean, it's going to be challenging. Starting school is going to be challenging. Car lines are going to be challenging. Everything's going to be challenging for a couple of weeks until our schools can get in the grooves of things. But I just ask for patience.
Can I ask 2 questions?
I'm done.
I just wanted to address the mask thing. As most of you know, I'm a man of science. I work at Y-12. I've been in the nuclear field and I've worked around alpha radiation a good bit of my career. The man's very accurate in the micron levels that he cited. What I don't understand about it is that these masks somehow seem to be knocking down the sneezes and the droplets to the point where the good doctor was accurate. It's working somehow. I also was a 7th grade young boy over there, and I can tell you right now I wouldn't have worn one either. I can tell you right now I wouldn't. All I can say is I hope a lot of our teachers will consider using maybe the face shields. Just think about it, what I'm saying here. You can jump on either side of this argument. And I know that you're right what you said about the micron level. You're absolutely accurate there. But for some reason, the droplets seem to be knocking it down with the mask. So I consider using it is all I'm saying, and say a prayer for us.
Let's go.
Mike, you might wanna reach out to the sheriff's department, and I was thinking when we were talking about car pickup at Eaton's, how much more traffic is gonna be slowed down out there.
You are correct, and I will, and we are, Mr. Safety Director Tinker is working with Ms. Baszler. We are looking, at least when school starts, to see how it works, the parking directly in front of the awning at the school and the turnaround. We're gonna eliminate that parking, and we're gonna do 2 lanes.
Yeah.
To increase the speed going through there as well. So we're trying to adapt as we move forward. It may work, it may not work, but we're trying to do what we can to improve it. I will reach out.
And then, how many teachers did we have? We didn't have a lot of teachers left that we had to replace this year, did we?
About the normal amount.
The ones that didn't get hired back?
Yeah, now I will say that I sent out today as part of the Corona Act, I sent out the employee rights today. Most of those, just so the teachers are aware, a lot of things aren't covered under I mean, it'd be like FMLA if someone wanted to take off, but they will, if anyone's concerned, they can contact the HR department. Ms. Touton will walk them through their options on what they need. Like I said, we'll see how we go moving forward with the continuous learning plan and the virtual piece when we start looking at numbers and see what we got. Again, that may be additional costs and staffing, but we'll bring that back to the board when you get ready to approve that plan and tell me which direction to go. We're trying to do what's best for kids and try to do it in the best way we can. So.
Have we had many take on that offer where you'd offered them to, if they didn't want to be at the school, they could take that FMLA leave or whatever?
Well, it's the federal requirements around that essentially, 5 of the 6 categories, you get 2 weeks. So, I mean, if they did take it, they would just miss the first 2 weeks of school and then they'd have to come back. And it would take, underlying health conditions or things like that to trigger FMLA, so the corona, the COVID is really more built around, like what Kim was talking about earlier, if they actually are, showing symptoms and getting tested, or if they actually get it, then they don't have to use their sick leave, that would kick in. So that's the piece, like what Kim was talking about, that we communicated that, but there are some pieces with it, where, if schools closed or childcare centers are closed, then, some of those kicks in for, again, it's 2 weeks up to 10 weeks. There's nothing that would do the whole year.
Right.
So, but I'm trying to get an idea on staffing just to make sure we're covered and we won't have as many substitutes available this year. We won't be doing as much pull-out professional development this year because we won't have subs. It's gonna alter the way we normally do our school year, just because we won't have the backup staffing that we normally have. If I end up having to do a closure, it will more than likely be because I can't staff the school, not because we've got a case or 2 in the school.
What do you do if you don't have?
And that's where that critical infrastructure comes in there, because if they're showing symptoms, they're not gonna be at work. But if they were just exposed and not showing symptoms, then they would come to work wearing a mask like everybody else that's considered essential, like Scotty and healthcare workers and the Food City folks, all those folks that are being exposed. But if they're showing symptoms, they won't be there.
I just mean, if we don't have a sub, what are you gonna do for that classroom? If the teacher's
call
not
you.
there?
Tinker's gonna figure that out when the time comes.
He could fill it. He's good in the classroom.
Did the state relax the PE requirements?
Thank you, Phil. Phil had asked if the state relaxed the PE requirements. I filed a waiver with the state to, where they wouldn't hold us. I have not heard back yet. So if they deny my waiver, we may have to hire 2
on
teachers.
top of everything
On top
else.
of everything else, yeah. But I did apply for a waiver for that, and a few other things, so, but I haven't heard, I don't know when I'm gonna hear back. And just to share my, concern about things, I'm asking you to meet in 2 weeks to approve our continuous learning plan because it has to be submitted the next day on the 24th. They won't tell me if I've got approval until August the 17th, which is actually 2 weeks after we started school. So we'll be starting school, that's why we're communicating with the state now, trying to get a feel for, you know, is this gonna make it or is this not gonna make it? Cause I don't wanna be surprised on the end, you know, but you're still running a little bit of a risk with that to get the state approval. So the timelines that they've got aren't very conducive to what they're asking us to do either, so, but we're doing the
And I
best
just
we
wanna
can.
say, I think you're doing a great job trying to keep the community, informed on how this is all coming about. I mean,
You
it's,
are the man.
it's
I was very
incredible.
pleased with the response rate on the survey. We've got 4,800 kids and we had 2,200 responses, 200 teachers, which was, or 190, which was.
I don't
half
know
our
that
teachers
the general
responded, so.
population kinda understands this is a moving target every day. And you don't never know,
It's on the win.
How was the recruiting class for the Greenback?
not very good.
Anything else? We have a motion.
Second.
I said, do I have a
Oh,
motion?
motion. So, second.
Meeting adjourned.
Good. That is the three
Take those pack cans home for kids.
No worries.